Okay, let us begin. So we are in chapter 15, right? And before we start, it's the Yoga of Supreme Person. It is the most very short chapter, has got only 20 verses and it's very interesting. Before that, let us pay obeisance to Sri Radharani. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Nananjana Shalakaya Takshometameena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tanvittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadotam Parijana Sahitam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dino Bandho Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatrapyascha Kripa Sindhaveva cha Patitam Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschadeshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So what we were doing at the last class was the chapter 14. It was material modes of nature. So there the Lord was talking about our Sattva Guna, Rajas Guna and the Tamas Guna. He says by how the living entity are conditioned, and by understanding this, we will liberation is assured. He says in the beginning of the thing. If you understand this, how we get conditioned in this material world, how we get entangled in this material nature, then you will be able, this knowledge will help you to get liberation. So then it describes what are the binding characteristics. The Sattva Guna, how it makes you, that nature brings you happiness, contentment, and your calm and peace. And it's also a thing where in that gun, you will be able to acquire knowledge. And because of that, you have that happiness and contentment, what happens? You get you get bounded by that. So you don't go beyond that. You don't go beyond to this Shuddha Sattva state. Okay. So that is one kind of binding to the entanglement in this material world. But in mode of passion, Rajaguna, you are all the time flooded with desires and your endeavor, and you're never stopping in that. So finally, you're always bound to the fruitive results and the activities. In Tamaguna, it is mostly opposite to Sattva-guna, and you're entangled by the madness and indecisiveness and foolishness, right? So, and then he described how you don't be in one mode of nature. There will always be a supremacy between Sattva-guna, Rajas-guna, and the Tamas-guna. So, there will always be a trying one over the other. And actually, we are in permutation and combinations. It's not just one gun will be there in the morning, will be in one, and then depending on the situations, our influence of the nature will be different. Okay. And then what is the nature? If you are in Sattva-guna, what is your actions and what will be at the death? So this all we have been discussed in that. And then to transcend the modes, it's only by devotional service. Towards the end, the Lord says only by devotional service you can transcend the modes and come to the Brahman realization. Actually, what is it we are trying to learn here is Krishna is telling us about the lifestyle we need to live. try to be more in the sattva guna rather than the other gunas, that passion. In fact, Prabhupada in the purport writes that more in today's modern world is mostly the passion guna, rajagun, or the ignorance is prevalent. And this is because there's no education. And he says, at least you try to elevate yourself from the mode of passion and thing to the sattva. Then by simple living and high thinking, he says that is the best way of coming out of this. So after explaining about the lifestyle, and this is very easy to understand because we can relate to what was happening around us and how we are about our own nature. So how we can this, okay? But in this chapter, here he comes, there is a shift in the paradigm shift is there, where the Lord is using a metaphor of inverted banyan tree to explain about the characteristics of the how unreal this material world is actually mirror image of the spiritual world, and the, there is an illusion, how it is not real, some mirror reflection. Then he goes to explain how to become detached from there. Then again there are talks about the transmigrations, and actually mostly the 14, 15, 16 chapters is like talks about the sense of detachment. Because if you have to get attached to Krishna, then you have to slowly get detached from this material, right? Slowly. So then transmigration, again, it talks about that. And then how it talks about his position as a Purushottam in the verses from 12 to 15. And then talks. Till now, we have not talked much about the Vedas, but now in these verses 18, 16 to 20, it talks about the Vedas, how the summarizes the Vedas and the Vedanta. Okay? Because it is the Vedas are given by him only to Lord Brahma at the beginning of the thing. So in this chapter, he touches upon the Vedas. Okay? So let us go into this. So because this verse from 1 to 5 become detached from the material world, it's a reflection of the spiritual world. Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Urdhvam Moolam Ada Shakam Ashvatam Prahurabhyayam Chandamsi Yasya Karnani Estam Veda Sa Veda. Supreme Personality of Godhead said that there is an imperishable banyan tree that has its roots upwards and its branches are down, whose leaves are the Vedic hymns, and who knows this tree as the knower of the thing. So you see this banyan tree, it's inverted. I mean, actually, you see a reflection of a tree in the river, on the bank of the river. And here it is on the river platform of desire. So this is a reflection of the material world, it's a reflection of the spiritual, where the roots are upwards and the branches are down. Okay, and the leaves are all on Vedic hymns, and the fruits are all the economic fruits, atta, religiosity, and sense gratification, and the pigs and things are all the sense objects and the senses. And topmost is the Brahma and on the demigods, and then you have either when you do pious activities, you go up. If it's impious activities, you go down. And there are also secondary roads which are going down also. And this is a very dense tree, which you cannot know where it is starting and where it is ending. So this is how is talking about the material. See, if you see a reflection in the mirror, then there must be some object which is real. Only then you can see its reflection, isn't it? Same way when you say there's a reflection here, so actually it shows that there is a real world there above in another depth. That's a spiritual world. And our material world is just a mirror image of that. So nothing is real in this world. Okay. So it's an upside down tree. It's a perverted reflection thing. And whatever is the topmost here is the love, the here it will be just the opposite. It's the last. So everything is just the reflect. So it's described as an upside banyan tree. Why material was compared? Because for one, engaged in fruit activities, there's no end to the banyan, which is very deep rooted. Okay. one wanders from branch to branch with no end. That's how it is, because banyan trees are like that. Purpose of Vedic hymns is to elevate oneself gradually from material conditioning to spiritual life, right? And why it's leaves? Actually, when you material life, when you say successful and all that, you always relate to something which is green and fresh, so like that. So the leaves are the Vedic hymns, and it helps us to come out of the spirit, gradually rise to the spiritual life. One who understands this indestructible illusion can get out of it by the sword of detachment. Why is he giving us this? So that we can understand that this world is illusion and we need to come out of it. This knowledge, we need to use this weapon of knowledge to cut this tree. And what is the process? Devotional service, the best way, as explained in the chapters. Detachment from material activities. Okay. So material world is an upset. It refuses impulse, says that spiritual work consists of one different. Actually, imperialism is they think that we should merge into Brahma Jyoti. There is no spiritual world there, but actually, there is a world which is just it's real, and only our material world is the reflection. So there is a thing. So what does it mean to know Vedas? It means that one knows how to cut off the attachment to this material world. He is attracted by the ritualistic Vedic formulas. He is just attracted by beautiful green leaves of the banyan tree and does not know the purpose of Vedas. So you get attracted by the green leaves, but you should understand that Vedic rituals and thing is a gradual process to go from Karma Kanda to Karma Yoga on the path of your spirituality. And these are nourished by the three modes and fruity wax. That's what he says in the next verse. Different species manifest according to the proportions of modes. Sometimes we find that a tract of land is barren for want of substrate, and sometimes a tract is very green. So, similarly, where particular modes of material nature are proportionally greater in quantity, the different species of lives are manifested accordingly. So this tree is nourished by the moss. The branches of tree extend downwards and upwards, nourished by the three modes of nature. Twigs are objects of the senses. The tree also has roots going down, and these are bound back to the fruitive actions of human society. This is an upside. Okay. And as I said, the leaves are the Vedic hymns, twigs are the sense objects, tips of branches, senses. Okay, the only way to out of the tree is detachment. Okay, and we should, once you have understand this knowledge properly, then you can come out of this. So actually the same thing, what is there in the purport, we have given it in this tabular form so that we can understand clearly. Original tree, spiritual world, material world, reflection. Three modes of nature is the nourishment. And real root of this materialism grows upward towards the Brahmaloka. And secondary roots are in the human planetary systems and grow downward. Okay. And tendencies towards piety, impiety are considered to develop from these secondary roots. And branches, upper and lower branches, lower parts of branches are human beings, animals, horses, cows, dogs, cats, etc. Upper parts are the demigods, Gandharvas. Okay. So we just repeated. And fruits are the karma of jivas, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So the living entity's involvement, he hops from one branch to another, trying to taste the fruit, can't see how far the tree extends or where it ends. Although living entities are the eternal fragment parts of Krishna, they are struggling with the senses. That's what happens because it's so dense, nobody knows where it ends or where it starts. And we think this is our reality. Actually, this is not so. Okay. So real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, or where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this tree with a weapon of detachment. Na rupam ashesha tatopalaptate, nanto na chadir, na cha samprisha. Ashvatam enam sa Viruddha Moolam. Asanga Shastrena. Shastra, that is Shastra. What is the weapon? The weapon of detachment. The Dena, that means you have to use it with determination. Chitva, you have to cut down. So yeah, you can't try to find the term because it's so dense. So this thing is not only by detachment, you can cut down this tree and get the come detached. And how? And if you have cut down, but you should have a place to go to, isn't it? So Krishna says, Tata padam tat parimarikatavam avyayam yasmin gata na nivartante bhuyaya tam eva chadyam purusham is a personality of God, prabhatyai. Tata pravritam prashna. So doing, one must seek that place. That is Parigitavaya, must place from which having once gone, you never return. Nivartanti bhuyaya. And they surrender. And what do? Once you go to that place, you have to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything has begun and whom everything is abiding since time immemorial. It is there from everything from. So he says, this is how we have to do. How? Using the weapon. What is the weapon? Shastra is the asanga, detachment. You cut the tree with determination, and then you can find a place where, and you have to go to a place. You can't just remain there. So this is what the Lord says. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. So use the acts of detachment to understand the tree. Solution is cut down with this. Then one must go beyond the tree and surrender to things. Why real form cannot be understood? Because root is up and extension is other end. And we are entangled in material expansion. One cannot see how far the tree ends are and where is the beginning. How to find out the cause? Fathers to bring Brahmaloka. Actually, if you trace out now who is your father, then you go to your grandfather, from grandfather to great grandfather, and upon thing, finally you trace it to Brahmaloka, from where everything starts. So Krishna is the end of research work. How to search out of that origin? From association of persons in knowledge of Supreme Person. Okay. What are the benefits of this knowledge? You become detached from false reflection. Cut off this connection, actually becomes situated in the tree. Okay. So this is what we are learning by Asanga. Now tree. So find one in knowledge. Just 1 minute. Okay. So detachment is the only way out of the tree. And we need to surrender to the Lord. Okay. And attain the eternal love. So this is the way you have to do it. So nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandva vimukta sukha dukkha samnaya gachanti amudam padam avyayam tat. So how does we do that? Actually, in material world, what happens? What do we go by success? We go by success. We think if we have the ability, we have the facilities, and we have the position. Abilities to do such things which people recognize, and the facilities which we have, like the resources where we might have the beauty, we might have the wealth and all that, and the position, the roles and responsibilities. So we actually in the material world, we rate these as the factors for success, right? But actually these factors don't last for long. See, as you grow old, you may not have that same kind of ability to do the thing, and you may not have the health that is what you were enjoying in your youth. You might not have the same health thing when you grow old, and they may not have the same responsibilities or positions because there'll be somebody else who will come much better than you in that place. So these are all things that are changing. So it's never eternal. So that's why whatever you feel, we feel that is success in this material world is not the true assets, because we are living in an illusory world. So that's why the Lord says, come out of that, come then, because this is not a reality. And how do you do that? Let us look at the purpose. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, for false association, understands the eternal, who are done with the material lust, material desires, freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and will how to surrender, then attain to that eternal kingdom. So, Nirmana Nimoha Jita Sangha Dosha Adhyat. Anyone volunteers to read? Hare Krishna. Rajapriya Singh Mataji. Hare Krishna. Anyone can volunteer to read?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
The surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride, because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the lord of material nature. It is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not lord of the material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who is always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated, and he is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society, and they have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is a proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes full in knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So here the Prabhupada clearly explains the surrendering process is very nicely. He puts it up. So here false prestige. That is, we become very puffed up because when people respect us and all, no, we think we are the lord of the material. We are having all these facilities. We have this ability. No, we get puffed up when people start praising us. So this conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself the lord of the material nature because he has got so many things with him. For him to surrender to Supreme Lord is very difficult. So if you cultivate this knowledge that he is not the Lord of, because we saw in chapter 5 also, he is the proprietor, he is the enjoyer, supreme enjoyer. Once we get that knowledge, we understand that, then we will be free from delusion caused by pride. Okay? So only that is the one which is stopping us to, only then if you come out of that, you can begin the process of surrender. And also we expect somebody to honor and to us, no, who want to praise us, the thing. Then you won't, so you have to be humble. Humble means not to expect honor from the people. So that is, it is not possible to surrender. So pride is due to illusion, because we think we are the proprietors, but actually the Lord is the proprietor. And we have this association, a false notion that we are the proprietor, and we have this association, because whatever the association we have with our family, the social, and it's only for this temporary, it's not a permanent thing. But our association with the Lord is permanent. We're all the time. We say we are is part and parcel of it, that we have forgotten. So this thing we are under illusion. So these faulty associations bind us to this material. So once we understand this knowledge, if we can develop this knowledge and conscience, then it is possible for us to surrender to the Supreme. So it's very clearly the Lord says, Nirmana Moha Jita Sangha Dosha Adhyatma Nitya Vinirutta Kama, because we have lusty desires, we are unable to surrender to Him. Otherwise, we can do that. We are bewildered. Sukha Dukkha, I think we should come out of that. Okay. So those who are free from false prestige, illusion, association, then only will be able to understand the eternal. And then we can surrender to the Supreme Person. Only then we'll be able to get detached from this material world. Okay. So same thing is given. Who will be able to surrender? One is free from all this. Nirmana, Moha, Jita Sangha, Adhyatma Nitya, Dandvai, Mukta, Vinamukta. Okay. Then, after telling all that, giving us this metaphor, now he's again talking about the transmigrations, because he has to tell us. Now we have to tell us about the eternal abode. He says where we have to go to the Supreme Lord, how to surrender. So he says, Na tad dashyate suryo, na shashanka na pavaka, yad gatva na nirvattante, tad dhama paramam mama. That abode of mine, because he said you come to my abode, right? So then you should know how so he's describing that abode now. That abode of mine is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by electricity. And one who reaches it never returns to this material. So it is illuminated. And it's not like sun and moon, they all get their illumination from the brilliance of the Paramatma, by the Brahma Jyoti, right? So he says, just 1 minute. Sorry, today so many distractions. I'm so sorry. Okay. So while here the Lord is talking about his abode, once you go there, you no need to return to this material world. Okay, Nirvana. So this is the characteristics of the Lord's supreme abode, where Tad Dhamma Paramam Mama. That is not illuminated by sun, moon, or fire, or electricity. And once attained, one never returns to the material world. In fact, Prabhupada comments in the purport, we should be captivated by this information. What information? That we need not return to the material world once you go there. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. For one who is too much attached to this material world, it is very difficult to cut that attachment. But if he takes to Krishna consciousness, there is a chance of gradually becoming detached. One has to associate himself with the devotees, those who are in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says we should be captivated by this information, what the Lord is telling. that if you attain this boat, you don't have to come back. And otherwise, what happens? It's very difficult to come out of this false reflection of reality. Okay, it's very difficult to cut this attachment because it looks so real, and we are caught it in this by this material energy, right? So, and then he says why we have to come back, and he's also telling us the living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmented parts. Mamai Vamsha Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana. Since we are the part and parcel of him, so we have every little quality of him. Okay, we are a part and parcel. He says, Mama Amsha. So Amsha of him. Okay. And we are pragmatic ones and eternal. But what we have done, we got conditioned. And we are struggling here. Manashastan Indriyani Prakriti Stani Tashyati. Struggling with 6 senses. We are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. So it's very clearly, he says, why we have to come back to him? Because we are part and parcel. And that we have forgotten because we are in this illusory energy under that. And we have forgotten and we have come here. We wanted to lord over. So he says, okay, you have come here, you have desired, you do it, but gradually you come back to me. Okay. So this is what original eternal part and parcels. We belong to spiritual Lord in the spiritual world. Current position, what we are now struggling hard with mind and senses in this material world. So the living entity, the material world, carries its different conceptions of life from one body to another as the air carries aromas. Thus, he takes one kind of body and again quits it to take another. So now he tells how the process of transmigration. We are going from one body to another. We give up this gross body, but we go with our subtle body. A subtle body carries our desires, our reactions, our karma, everything, and we go with that and take a body which is suitable. Because supporting the whatever the activities we have done and what reactions we are there and what the desires we have, accordingly, Brahma will give us the body. So in carries is different conceptions life from body as the air carries aromas. See, the air when it blows over a rose garden from a rose garden, and we get such a nice smell of roses. Then when the wind blows and we get a smell of roses, then we know that the air has passed a garden of roses. That's why we are getting such smell. So the aroma which comes from the air, that's how we carry our perception. Our whatever the subtle body has got, that mind, our impressions, our desires, our reactions, all that we carry to the next body. Okay. So here the Shariram Yadavapnoti, he himself gives us the Vayur Gandha Ivashit. So the Lord himself is giving us the analogy. He says, just as the air carries the aromas, we carry our different conceptions life from one body to another. So if you change your conceptions here, you change your consciousness life, you can change your destiny. That's what the whole underlining thing we can understand. If we can understand that, we can change our consciousness, then we can change our thing. So process of explain acquires a material mind and carries different conceptions from one body to the next. Okay. So a living entity, thus taking another gross body, obtains a certain type of ear, tongue, nose, and sense of touch about the mind. It thus enjoys a particular set of sense objects. Okay. That's how it is. He gets the thing depending on what he has acquired in this life. Okay. Is there any questions so far? I hope it is understood. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can he understand what sort of body enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one who is trained in knowledge can see all this. So here what happens, the Lord is saying, if you are trained in this knowledge, Jnana Chakshusha. So unless we understand this knowledge, spiritual knowledge, otherwise we cannot. The foolish cannot understand how he can. He thinks whatever this life is the real life, he'll enjoy and he'll quit the body and think. But he doesn't understand how he has come, in which situation he is born, why different people are born in different situations, or all this, that transmigration. If he doesn't understand, that is the spell of the modes, then he cannot see. So you have to be trained in this knowledge to see all this. And here there's a picture of a person looking at the car has broken down and he's opened the bonnet and he's bewildered, wondering what's the mistake, and he's not able to identify the mistake, why the car has stopped on the road. But if a mechanical person, if he looks into it, he can easily find out the problem because he's trained to understand, study that. So same here, the foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body. And so we need to be trained in this knowledge, trained in this spiritual knowledge. The endeavoring transcenders who are situated in self-realization can see all this clearly. But those who are not situated in self-realization cannot see what is taking place, though he may try to. So, clearly, the Lord says you need the chakshu, jnana chakshu you need to understand this. Okay, and you have to learn it from the persons who are self-realized people. So, those not trained in this is in ignorance. What is the cure for this? Krishna says knowledge. Okay. And those who are trained can see all this clearly because their minds are clarified by yoga practice and thus situated in self-realization. But those minds were not developed and were not situated in things cannot see what is taking place, though they might try to. So Bhakti Yogas are the actual yogis, having realized self, world, and the Supreme Lord, can see the things as they are. So we need this understanding. We need to try to study under the spiritual master about this, about the Lord, about how to write down. Okay. So now he talked about the transmigration. First he talked why we have to, how to go from material world to spiritual way, the process of surrender. And then after telling the surrender, he told about this abode. And why we have to go back to his abode? Because we are part and parcel of him. And we have forgotten that and we have been in this world because we want to lord it up. So he says you have to be captivated by this knowledge that by detaching we can go to his abode. So, and for that we need to be trained. And now he is telling how supreme he is, how Purushottama. Because why we have to surrender to him unless we is the great personality. Only when we see someone is so great and think we really become a fan of that person, isn't it? Same here now he's talking about his position as the maintainer. The splendor of the sun, which dissipates the darkness of this whole world, comes from me, and the splendor of the moon and the splendor of fire also from me. Okay. I enter into each planet, and by my energy, they stay in the orbit. I become the moon, and they will supply the juice of life to all the vegetables. I enter into each planet, stay in the orbit. So, actually, for our sustenances, we need the sun, the moon, and the earth, and all the things which are there, right? So, otherwise, we cannot survive in this planet. So, he says he's giving from that cosmic, the facilities are giving from the cosmic universe. And gravity is an important force. It keeps our planets orbiting the sun, and the ropes are galaxy together. It keeps them all together, right? And that is his energy. By my energy, they stay in the orbit. Then he becomes the moon, supplying the juice of life to all of it. So he's giving us all the facilities and he's the maintainer. Okay. And also, I am the fire of digestion in every living body. I am the air of life, prana, which is going up, out and incoming, by which I digest the 4 kinds of foodstuffs. Aham bhutva praninam deham astritaha pranapana samyukta pacham. Actually, we don't know. We have just put the food into our mouth and we just are breathing and inhaling and exhaling. It's just going automatically, right? And what is the food which is going in? It just gets digested. We are not doing anything for it, right? Here the Lord says, I'm the fire of digestion and I'm the prana which is going. So is not only maintaining us from the externally and also internally is maintaining us. Okay. Sarvasya, and what are the four kinds of food stuff? The ones you eat, you chew, drink, suck, and then swallow, right? And then he says, serve, and not only the body, he maintains things. Now he says, I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Okay? By all the Vedas, I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of Vedanta and I am the knower of Vedas. So, Sarvasya Chaham Ridhi Sannivistu. So, he is there in our heart. And from he comes Mata Smriti Jnanam Apohanam. Apohanam is forgetfulness. Jnanam is the knowledge. Smriti is the remembrance. So he says, from me you get the remembrance, knowledge, and forget. And we forget our previous lives, isn't it? We don't. Otherwise, if we knew what was happening in our previous lives, we'll become a mad person today. It could be very chaotic. So he's giving us a he's giving us a remembrance, knowledge, and forgiveness. All comes from him. So our mind, the way the mind works, what it needs, it is coming from him, right? So from a body, now he is maintaining the mind. And how he is maintaining our soul? By giving us the Vedas. Vedas cha sarvair aham. He is the, by all the Vedas I am to be known. Vedas cha sarvair aham. Eva Vedyo. Vedanta Krit Veda Vid Yevacha. So I am the compiler of Vedas and the knower of the Vedas. And why do we need to know the Vedas? Only then we can understand the purpose of our life and how to go back to his abode. So he is the maintainer of a body, maintainer of a mind, and maintainer of a soul also. Yes, given. Okay. So splendor comes from the sun, moon, and thing. What is the benefit? As given in this verse, is the maintainer of the material world, okay, which gives us vegetables. Vegetables are nourished and which comes from the Lord. And is the maintainer with it. And four kinds of foodstuffs. What are they? Swallow, chewing, lick, and the suck. And is the, to digest, we need Krishna energy as fire and life is. There is Ayurveda, no? There's a, if you study Ayurvedic science, you will understand they talk about all this. Okay. So, remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Sarvasya Chaham Nidhi Sannivishtam. So, in our mind, he is the one who is giving us, he is the heart of all the living entities. Okay. And he's giving the Vedanta Krit Veda Vid Evacha. Okay. So, next, the last three verses, summarizing the Vedas and Vedanta kinds of living entities. There are two classes of beings, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every entity is called infallible. Okay. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Lord Himself, who has made the world and is maintaining them. He is the Purushottama. Okay. Now, fallible ones are we, are the conditioned souls who are in this material world. And in the infallible ones are the ones who are in the spiritual world. And above all of them, the greatest personality is the Lord Himself. He is the Purushottama. So he says, it's fallible and thing. Esma sharam atito aham akshara dapi chottama ato asme loke veda cha parati Purushottama. Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and fallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. It is really given in the Vedas that he is the Supreme Person. Okay. So, the two kinds, this is what is being said by the Lord. He is the master of the both, he is the greatest personality. He enters the three worlds and then maintains them. And Supreme, celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as the Supreme Person, Purushottama. Okay. This is the three. We had Chatusloki, in chapter 10. This is the Trisloki Gita, where it is the essence of Gita, given where he says he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? All around meditating the Brahma or the thing is all meditating on the Lord. Okay. Whoever knows me as a Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting, asamadhav, is to be understood as a knower of everything. And he therefore engages himself in full devotion service, O son of Bharata. Bhajati mam sarva bhavena Bharata. Okay. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, O sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. So it is the confidential part in the Vedic scriptures. Initially, people will get caught, be enamored by the karma kanda part, and they don't go to the Dhyana Uttama, that is going to the higher, deeper into deeper that. But this is the confidential part of the thing. So the Lord says, I have given you the most confidential part of the Vedic scriptures, and whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection. Okay, it's a very short chapter. It's the essence of Vedanta and the most confidential part. Result of understanding, wise, and he will know perfection. Sinlessness. Okay, this is a summary of Purushottama Yoga. How he is explaining the whole thing by using the inverted reflection of the banyan tree, saying that is the material world and is a reflection of the spiritual world. And then he talked about how to cut by the weapon of knowledge, by detachment. Okay. And then, and once you cut it, where should you go? You have to go to a spiritual world. And then he described a spiritual abode. And from there, once you go, you don't need to come back. And then he tells why we have to go back, because we are part and parcel of him. And then he talked about how conditioned soul began the transmigration. And we are suffering here in this material world with our six senses. And we go from one body to another body and take our subtle body along with us. That's how the transmigration is taking place. Purushottama Yoga. And he's now talking about the Krishna's position as a maintainer. Because once you know, then unless then we won't be able to surrender to others. We think we are the Lord of this material world. So from here we come to know his position. And he's not only maintaining the whole world for us, so that we can sustain our body, gross body, but also our mind and our soul. Because he is gives us the memory, then our knowledge and our forgetfulness. Is the Vedaischa Samvaira. So he is the Vedas, and what is the purpose of Vedas is to know him. Okay. So he gave this, says, telling Archana, I have given you the confidential part of the Vedas, and people who know that, they'll come to perfect life. Okay. This is chapter 15, telling us how to come out of this illusory world.